All right, welcome back. This is it, the final piece of the puzzle for harmonic linguistics. For 5 videos now, we've been looking at this whole system from the inside out. But today, we're going to do something completely different. What happens when you take away all the context, all the explanations from the author, and just hand over the raw data, the 30 codes, to systems that have absolutely no bias? Is this incredible design we've talked about actually in the language itself, or is it just a really good story? Well, today, we're going to find out. So, here's our game plan. We'll start with how this whole experiment was set up to be completely unbiased. Then, we'll get into the really amazing part, the 3 key areas where all the AIs landed on the exact same conclusions. And that leads to this bombshell verdict that changes how we see the whole system. And finally, we'll wrap up with what this all really means.
Okay, so first things first, setting up the test. This had to be a truly blind experiment. The whole point wasn't to get a pat on the back. It was to see if these totally separate, independent AI brains would look at the codes and find the same hidden structure. The whole thing hinged on making sure it was completely objective.
So here's exactly how it went down. We used 8 different big-name AI language models. For each one, we opened a fresh, private window, incognito mode, so there was 0 past history to color the results. We fed all of them the exact same thing, the 30 codes, and a single, simple prompt asking for a deep dive on the structure, the language, and the psychology. And here's the most important part. That's all they got. No mention of the book, the author, or that XYZ framework we've been talking about. They were working in a total vacuum.
And we're not talking about some obscure AIs here. These were the big guns. ChatGPT, Claude, Google's Gemini, Grok, the whole crew. So you've got 8 totally separate analytical minds looking at the exact same data from scratch. The big question was, were they going to see a pattern, or were we just going to get 8 random conflicting reports?
Well, what came back was, honestly, it was stunning. The very first thing they all agreed on was massive. It was the discovery of the core architecture of the whole system, an architecture that, remember, we never even told them existed.
Just let that sink in for a second. With 0 hints, every single one of the 8 models spotted the pattern. They didn't see 30 random phrases. No, they saw a structure of 10 triads, each with 3 parts, which we've been calling X, Y, and Z. They literally saw the blueprint. And it gets even better.
See, they didn't just identify the XYZ pattern, they figured out what each part does. They all agreed. They saw that the X codes are all about creating grounding and structure, basically establishing a safe container. Then, the Y codes open you up to feeling, to flow, to really being in your body. And finally, the Z codes, they're the integrators. They pull the first 2 together and create wholeness. This wasn't some lucky guess. It was a pure structural analysis.
ChatGPT's analysis actually put it perfectly. It said, and I'm quoting here, "That is a very sophisticated sequence. It mirrors many therapeutic and contemplative processes. First create safety, then allow feeling, then integrate meaning." The AI recognized that this sequence, safety, feeling, integration, is a tried and true therapeutic model. It saw that intelligence baked right into the system's DNA, all on its own.
Okay, so that's the architecture. The next layer where they all came together was the language itself. Every single model flagged that the wording here is, well, it's just plain different. It's clearly engineered for a specific job, and it doesn't sound or act like everyday language at all.
The first thing they all did was compare it to typical affirmations. Stuff like, "I will be successful." They pointed out that those are usually future-focused, very literal, and often judgmental. But what they found in harmonic linguistics was the complete opposite. It's all present tense, I am language. It's packed with metaphors and symbols, it's totally non-judgmental, and its goal isn't to ignore reality, it's designed to change your relationship with reality.
And the detail they agreed on is just wild. All 8 of them pointed to the exact same design choices. They all caught the use of paradox, phrases like boundaries that free, and understood it's meant to break black and white thinking. They even noticed the grammar is a little strange, and correctly figured out it's on purpose, to make you slow down and really absorb it. They all saw the pattern of the self being a container or a field, that there's no judgmental language, and the use of these really active organic verbs like ripens or dissolves. They didn't see these as errors. They saw them as deliberate strategic features.
Again, one of the analyses just nailed it. It said, "This is not ordinary affirmation language, it is closer to contemplative instruction." It saw that the whole point of the language is to train your mind to handle complexity, to hold 2 opposing ideas at once without shutting down. That's a huge part of being psychologically resilient.
So we have the architecture, we have the unique language. The third big area of agreement was how this whole thing is actually supposed to work, like on a deep psychological and even a neurological level. Remember the 4 steps of the practice. Speak, whisper, think it, then write it. Well, the AIs were unanimous on this. It is not just mindless repetition. They actually called it a multimodal neuroencoding protocol. Fancy term, but what it means is that each step is designed to systematically wire the codes into your nervous system using a different pathway. Speaking hits your auditory centers. Whispering engages your calming system. Thinking it rewires internal self-talk, and writing it down locks it into your motor memory. It's a full-body, full-brain process.
Now this might be the most incredible part of all. Remember, the AIs knew nothing about the theory behind the book, and yet, multiple models independently started spotting principles from major therapeutic frameworks. They saw echoes of polyvagal theory for regulating the nervous system. They saw bits of internal family systems, or IFS, for integrating different parts of yourself. They saw acceptance and commitment therapy, attachment theory. It's a long list. It's like they performed a psychological X-ray and saw the system's DNA just from the language alone.
So you add it all up. The architecture, the engineered language, the deep psychological mechanics, and all 8 AIs arrived at the exact same definitive verdict. A conclusion that basically creates a whole new category for this system.
And here it is. 8 out of 8, it was completely unanimous. Not a single shred of doubt. Every AI working alone said loud and clear, whatever this is, it is not a conventional affirmation practice.
So, okay. If it's not affirmations, then what is it? This is what's so cool. It's like a chorus effect. Just listen to the labels they came up with, totally on their own. ChatGPT called it a constructed psycholinguistic training set. Claude said it was a structured psycholinguistic integration system. DeepSeek called them somatic linguistic recalibration codes. Gemini, somatic linguistic programming system. You've got somatic cognitive integration protocol, somatic integration protocol. Do you hear that common thread? It's like a chorus, all singing the same song in slightly different words. It's remarkable. So you have 8 different models, 8 slightly different phrases, but one single diagnosis. This is a system built for somatic and linguistic integration. It's designed to connect your body, the soma, with language in a way that literally rewires your nervous system.
And this really brings us to the biggest takeaway of this whole series. The point isn't just what they found. The point is that they all found the same thing. The convergence. That's the evidence.
What this means is that the design isn't just a story someone is telling you about the codes. It is a real, objective structure that's physically embedded in the codes. It's a pattern that's there for any system, whether it's a person or an AI, to see if they look deep enough. The design is real.
And just like that, we've come full circle. We started this whole series asking, why do affirmations usually fail? We've walked through the design, the language, the experience, and now we've landed here, with independent, objective proof that the architecture of this system is real, it's intelligent, and it's there.
I think this one summary, which kind of blends what all the AIs were saying, just captures the whole point perfectly. It says, the system does not make you believe I am happy when you are sad. It makes you believe I am the ground where this sadness can be held without breaking me. See the difference? It's not about forcing positivity. It's about building the capacity to hold everything. It's about becoming resilient. So, across these last 6 explainers, we've broken down the design, we've talked about the experience, and today we've seen the entire architecture validated by outside eyes. From an intellectual standpoint, the case has been made.
And for anyone who feels ready to go from just understanding the map to actually walking the path, the journey starts right here. It's the book, Harmonic Linguistics by Michael Goldstein, and its companion workbook that guides you through the practice.
And that brings our series to a close. But really, it's not a conclusion, it's an invitation. Because at the end of the day, the only analysis that really counts is your own. The invitation is to start the 90-day practice and discover this design for yourself, not as an idea you think about, but as something you can actually feel. It's there to be discovered.